Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. It happened in the smallest moment. No shouting, no fight, no betrayal I could see. Just her words. Cold, flat, practiced. Don't touch me right now. She didn't yell it. She didn't cry. She said it like she'd been waiting for the opportunity to push me away, like it was a habit she never had the nerve to form. Until then. We were standing in the kitchen. She was leaning against the counter in one of those perfectly curated outfits, scrolling through her phone like I wasn't even there. I reached out, nothing dramatic. Just tried to wrap my arm around her waist, the way I always used to when the world felt quiet between us. That's when she said it. Didn't look up. Didn't flinch. Just, don't touch me right now. And I froze. Not because she refused, but because it wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I heard it clearly. She went right back to her phone, probably checking some Amazon reviews or scrolling Instagram, looking for something to make her feel important. And I stood there like a stranger in a house I paid for. I didn't ask why. I didn't press. I just stepped back. She didn't notice. That's the part that stuck with me. The absence of awareness. The assumption that I'd keep trying. That I'd come back later with more softness, more questions, more hands ready to comfort. But I didn't. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not the one after that. Something in me shifted. Quietly. Permanently. She thought it was just another wave in the cycle. That I'd circle back like I always did, asking if she was okay, asking what was wrong, asking how I could fix something I didn't even break. But this time, I didn't come looking. And when a man stops looking for his place next to you, you better pray it's not because he finally realized he doesn't belong there anymore. That night, I slept facing the other side of the bed. And she didn't reach for me. In the morning, she left early. Said she had errands. Target run, maybe Costco. Didn't ask if I needed anything. Just left a cold cup of coffee on the table and a silence between us that tasted like the beginning of the end. She didn't know it yet. But that moment, that one sentence, it was the last time she'd ever need to tell me not to touch her. Because from now on, I wouldn't ask. And when a man like me goes quiet, it's not a pause. It's a departure in progress. That weekend, I didn't bring it up. Didn't ask why she said it. Didn't circle back for closure or clarity. I just stopped reaching. She moved through the house like nothing happened. She laughed at TikToks on her phone while brushing her teeth, tossed laundry on the bed for me to fold, left open tabs on her laptop like we were still planning something together. But I had already started erasing myself. Not from the space. From the behavior. I didn't hover behind her while she cooked anymore. Didn't put my hand on her lower back when she passed me in the hallway. Didn't check if she made it home safe when she stayed out late. I went quiet. Not cold. Just gone. And the thing is, she didn't notice immediately. That's the part that made it so easy to keep going. We had reached a stage where my presence had become a background setting, like the TV left on, low volume, for comfort. She assumed I'd always be there, always ready to ask, to initiate, to fix what she quietly broke. But I wasn't in that role anymore. She talked about a new yoga studio one morning. Asked if I could help her move a shelf in her office. I said sure, but my voice didn't match the version of me she remembered. It was flat, calm, dry. She blinked like something tasted off, but didn't say anything. And I realized that was her first clue. She was losing grip, not because I left, but because I stopped holding on. That night, we sat on the couch. She scrolled through Amazon looking at wall art and candles. I scrolled through job listings in another city. She didn't ask what I was reading. And that was fine. Because I wasn't planning on explaining anything anymore. She used to be the one who pulled away first. A shift in tone, a withheld touch, a sigh that lasted just a beat too long. Now it was me. I had nothing to prove. No argument to win. No reaction to fish for. Her coldness didn't wound me this time. It clarified everything. You can only knock on a locked door so many times before you realize the silence isn't temporary. It's an answer. I started sleeping earlier. Woke up before her. Ate breakfast without waiting. Not to make a point, but because I didn't need permission anymore. And when I stopped trying to be close, I saw the beginning of something she wasn't ready to face. A version of me that wasn't built around her comfort. She didn't know it yet, but the distance she always reached for was finally here. And it wasn't hers to control. When you stop chasing noise, you start hearing patterns. Once I stopped trying to fix us, I started watching her. Not out of jealousy. Not from insecurity. From silence. From distance. From clarity. Her phone habits shifted. She used to leave it face up on the kitchen counter while cooking or folding laundry. Now it stayed close, face down, always on vibrate. She kept it with her like it was a secret breathing beside her. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. One night, around midnight, I heard her whispering in the bathroom. Door locked. Water running, like that would cover it. I didn't knock. I waited. 10 minutes later, she slipped back into bed, soft and careful, like she didn't want me to wake up. Too late. I'd already woken up months ago. I started noticing new names in her contacts. Notifications she swiped away without reading. A guy named Chris, liking every photo she posted, even the ones from a year ago. That's not casual. That's intention. I didn't accuse her. I observed her. And observation is quiet warfare. Because when you stop trying to be heard, you start seeing everything that was hiding behind the noise. The way she'd suddenly put on makeup at 10 p.m. to grab something from Walgreens. The way she'd angle her phone away while texting. The new lingerie she bought for herself, still tagged, still unworn in a drawer I no longer opened. She wasn't cheating yet. At least, not in the way people define it. But her mind had already left the relationship. Her attention had packed its bags and was living somewhere else, coming home only to keep up appearances. So I mirrored her, started locking my phone, started coming home later. I wasn't lying. I just stopped explaining. One evening, she asked if I'd been somewhere. Her voice had a hint of curiosity, maybe suspicion. I shrugged and said, just needed air. She didn't push. And that confirmed everything. Because if she still cared, really cared, she would have asked again. Instead, she nodded and went back to scrolling. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was looking for confirmation. And in the quiet corners of our daily routines, I found it. Not in the arguments. In the absence of effort. She didn't want to be touched? Fine. I stopped reaching, emotionally and physically. And the more I pulled away, the more she performed normal. That's when I knew. She was building a story for herself, for her friends, for anyone who'd ask later. A story where she was the victim. But stories can't hide patterns. And I had already started writing mine, in silence. The thing about fading out? You don't have to slam the door. You just stop holding it open. It started small. I froze one of our shared credit cards. The one she used for quick Target runs that somehow always turned into $300 hauls of things we didn't need. No warning. No conversation. Just declined. I watched her stare at her phone that evening. Face blank. She didn't say a word. But her posture changed, a tightness in her shoulders that wasn't there before. That was the first crack. Then I turned off location sharing on my iPhone. She noticed fast. She called me that afternoon while I was at a diner across town. No explanation, no big plans. I just wanted to eat somewhere she'd never think to look. Alone. Quiet. Free. She asked where I was. I told her I'd be home later. No details. She said, "Why'd you turn off location?" I said, "Why did it matter?" And for the first time, she didn't have an answer. I could feel her grip loosening. Not because I was doing anything extreme, but because I had stopped giving her access to the comfort she took for granted. No more predictable routines. No more late-night conversations. No more passive forgiveness. I didn't leave the bed. I didn't move out. I just unplugged my presence. I stopped being emotionally available while still being physically there. And it messed with her. She started texting more. Things she never used to say. Where are you? Are we okay? You've been quiet. I didn't ghost her. I responded, just enough to make her question which version of me she was talking to. She tried seducing me one night. Short dress. Candlelit. Said she missed us. But the candle was from Bath & Body Works, and the scent was one I never liked. She wasn't doing it for me. She was playing a role, one she thought I'd fall for again. I didn't. I said goodnight, turned over, and let silence do the talking. She went to the bathroom and stayed there for 20 minutes. Probably crying. Probably texting someone else. Probably both. But I didn't follow. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't angry. I was gone. Still in the house. Still on the lease. But I had erased every version of me she thought she still had access to. And when a man like me goes quiet like that, it's not punishment. It's the closing act. She started overperforming when she realized I wasn't playing. The makeup got heavier. The outfits tighter. More candid selfies, carefully filtered, started showing up on her Instagram. Captions about self-love and independence. Hashtags she never used before. But I noticed something else, too. Fewer comments. The likes dropped off. Even her closest friends weren't engaging like they used to. That's what happens when you stop looking like the victim and start looking like the cause. And I didn't post anything at all. No moving on quotes. No rebound photos. No revenge glow-up stories. Just silence. And that silence spread faster than anything she could post. At work, she used to thrive on attention. Lunchtime gossip. Group chats. Now, people stopped inviting her. She sat alone more. She mentioned it casually one evening, like it wasn't eating her alive. "They're just jealous," she said once. But her voice cracked on the last word. She knew better. The truth is, when someone starts losing their emotional currency, people stop investing in them. And she was broke. One night, she tried to initiate a conversation, one of those soft check-ins disguised as small talk. Asked if I wanted to watch something together on Netflix. Said she missed how we used to laugh at dumb shows. I said I was tired. She nodded, bit her lip, sat down anyway, and watched alone. I could feel it, the panic under her stillness. The way her body leaned slightly toward mine, hoping for warmth. Hoping I'd reach across the couch like I used to. I didn't. She'd said not to touch her. And I was honoring that wish. She tried being kind. Cooked dinner the next night. Left little notes. Tried to reclaim the version of herself she used to offer when she still cared. But it was too late. Not because I hated her. Because I didn't recognize her anymore. She was trying to win back a man who no longer existed in that house. And the worst part? The version of me she wanted back had died the moment she decided I was dispensable. Now she sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine, staring out the window like it held answers. But windows don't talk. And I didn't either. She was slipping. Not because I pushed, but because I finally stepped back far enough for her to see what life looked like without my presence filling the gaps. And once she saw it, even she couldn't deny it. She had created this version of her life. I was just done participating in it. We were invited to dinner at her sister's house. The kind of evening that used to come with casual jokes, too much wine, and a little too much comfort. But this time, it was different before we even walked through the door. She spent almost an hour getting ready. Changed outfits 3 times. Asked me twice if her makeup looked natural. It didn't. It looked like armor. She was trying to look fine. Because she knew we weren't. The ride there was quiet. She tried small talk. Asked if I'd seen the new iPhone. I nodded but didn't bite. I wasn't cold. Just uninterested. When we walked in, her sister hugged me tight. Longer than usual. Her eyes lingered. Studying. Noticing. Dinner started like normal. Laughter. Catching up. Background music. But halfway through the second glass of wine, her brother-in-law asked, "You two seem different." Her fork froze in the air. She smiled, too quickly. Said we were just busy with work lately. Her sister looked at me. I didn't say anything. Didn't nod. Didn't co-sign the lie. And that silence? That was the moment it shifted. Because in silence, people start to see what words have been covering up. She changed the subject. Talked about her yoga class. New candles she found at Target. Everyone nodded, but something had broken. The rest of dinner felt performative. She reached for my hand once. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. When we got home, she was quiet. Then she asked, "Did you have to act so distant?" I didn't answer. Because we were past pretending. She knew it. I knew it. And now, so did everyone else. That's what happens when the story you've curated starts slipping in public. People stop believing the highlight reel. They start asking real questions. And the worst part? You can't control their thoughts. She tried to reclaim the narrative the next day, posted an old photo of us at Olive Garden with a vague caption, "Love's just busy sometimes." But the comments weren't what she wanted. One friend replied, "Hope everything's okay." Another just left a heart emoji. And then silence. Even Instagram couldn't hide it now. She had lost control of the story. Because when the man who used to defend you goes quiet in a room full of people, they notice. They always notice. She thought distance made her strong. But now she was learning. The real strength wasn't in pulling away. It was in surviving the silence when someone else finally does. She started waking up earlier. That's how I knew she was anxious. She was never a morning person. Used to sleep through alarms, stay in bed scrolling on her iPhone, wrapped in throw blankets from Target, sipping cold brew while ignoring my presence. Now she was up at 6 a.m., dressed, moving with quiet urgency, as if productivity could clean the silence that had settled between us. But nothing moved me. Not the fresh coffee she brewed before I even got out of bed. Not the playlist she started playing again during breakfast, the one we used to share rides to, back when rides still meant something. That morning, she tried again. She sat across from me, barely touching her toast, and said, "I think we need to talk." I didn't nod. I didn't resist. I just sat back and let her speak. She asked if I was still invested, if something had happened, if I was seeing someone else, if she had hurt me in some way she didn't realize. I watched her face twist through confusion and desperation, trying to figure out which version of herself I was reacting to. But I wasn't reacting. I was done reacting. She said she felt like she was losing me. That was the closest to honesty she'd been in months. And she wasn't wrong. But I didn't reassure her. Because the truth is, once you've left emotionally, explaining it becomes unnecessary. You're not trying to win. You're not trying to hurt. You're simply done. I told her I had nothing to say right now. She waited for more. There was no more. That shook her. Because I had always been the one who chased resolution, who broke silences with compromise, who carried both sides of the relationship like it was a weight only I noticed. Now I was weightless. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just gone. Still in the house. Still sleeping in the same bed. But unreachable. She cried that night. Not loudly. Not for show. But alone, in the shower. I heard it. And I didn't go to her. I wasn't withholding affection as punishment. I was honoring her original request. "Don't touch me right now," she had said. So I hadn't. Not for days. Not for weeks. And now, not even in comfort. She asked for space. I gave her a galaxy. And now, she was the one struggling to breathe in it. Because when a man stops reaching, it's not a moment. It's a movement. And I wasn't coming back. She booked a weekend trip to the mountains. Said we needed air. Fresh start. Clean space. 2 nights at a quiet Airbnb near Asheville. The kind with a hot tub, string lights, and no cell service. The kind designed for couples to rediscover something they'd lost. I packed light. 1 bag. No expectations. She packed like she was preparing for a rom-com comeback. Candles. Wine. A playlist labeled Us. A new dress with the tags still on. We barely spoke during the drive. She tried. Talked about the trees, the silence, the escape. Said she missed how we used to laugh at dumb things like billboards or podcasts. I nodded. Not in agreement, in acknowledgement. At the cabin, she lit candles. Cooked dinner. Played our songs. Tried to set a scene she thought might trigger old versions of us to come alive. But those versions were dead. She poured wine. Sat close. Touched my arm. Waited. I didn't move. She asked if I remembered our first trip together. Of course I did. We'd gone to a cheap motel in Florida. Ate fast food on the beach. Made promises we were too young to understand. She laughed in that memory. I didn't. She leaned in that night. I leaned back. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. Because pretending there was still something to fix was worse than the silence we'd been living in. She broke. Not with screaming. Not with accusations. But with the soft collapse of someone who realized the power she thought she held had vanished. She sat on the porch alone for an hour. When she came back inside, she asked one last question. "Is this really it?" I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just looked at her like a man who had already unpacked the truth long before she booked the trip. And that silence? It said everything. She went to bed early. I stayed up, watching the fire burn down to embers. 1 glass of wine. 1 thought circling. I hadn't planned revenge. I'd planned distance. Not to hurt her, but to return to myself. And that night, under the glow of string lights and the finality of her last attempt, I realized she hadn't invited me here to reconnect. She had invited me to confirm what she already feared. And I did. Without a word. Without a fight. Without touching her. Just like she asked. We got back from the cabin on a Sunday evening. She left her bag in the hallway, like she couldn't decide if she was home or still pretending. I didn't leave mine there. I took it straight to the bedroom, opened it, and packed everything else I owned. No theatrics. No note. No speech. Just action. While she took a long shower, probably thinking silence still left room for repair, I folded my clothes, unplugged my chargers, took my watch off the nightstand, and placed her spare keys on the dresser. She came out with damp hair, wearing one of my old shirts. A detail she thought would mean something. It didn't. She stopped in the doorway when she saw the suitcase. Her eyes flicked from it to me, then back again. But she didn't say a word. Because deep down, she knew. This wasn't a decision made out of impulse or anger. It was the end of a decision she made long ago, The moment she weaponized rejection in a way she couldn't walk back. Don't touch me right now. That sentence had echoed through every silent dinner, every forced smile, every failed attempt at closeness since. Now she stood there, trying to look composed. But her hands trembled. She clutched her phone like it could stop time. I zipped the bag. She flinched at the sound. Still, no one spoke. I walked past her, not fast, not slow. Just done. She turned slightly, like she might stop me, but didn't, because she knew I wasn't bluffing. I left the apartment the same way I had left the relationship, quietly, cleanly, without permission or explanation. When I stepped outside, the air felt sharper, lighter, like my lungs had been waiting for this moment to fully expand again. I didn't check my phone, didn't wonder if she'd call. I knew she wouldn't. Not yet, because pride keeps people silent longer than pain. And her pride had built a wall so high, even she couldn't climb it anymore. I didn't tell friends, didn't post about it, didn't update my status. I just drove, stopped at a Waffle House off the highway, sat in a booth alone, ordered coffee and eggs, watched a couple two tables over hold hands without effort. And I realized, this was peace, not absence of noise, but absence of trying. I wasn't leaving her. I was returning to me. And whatever came next, she wouldn't be part of it. Not because I hated her, but because she mistook access for permanence. And I was done being available to someone who only valued me in my absence. I didn't move into a new place right away. I moved into peace first. Rented a short-term studio, small, clean, no memories. Bought a few things from IKEA. A new set of plates. Fresh towels. No shared toothbrushes. No framed photos. Just space that didn't apologize for being empty. The first night there, I slept without music, without background noise, without her breath next to mine. And it was the deepest sleep I'd had in years. Not because I was free, because I was finished. She texted me 2 days later. Just one sentence. Are you really not coming back? I didn't reply. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Because some questions don't deserve answers. They deserve silence. A week after that, she sent a longer message, something about closure, about how we should talk, how we owed each other that. But closure is a luxury for people who respected the door while it was open. She didn't. She tried calling. I blocked the number. Tried messaging me on Instagram. I deleted the app. I wasn't angry. I was clean. Clean from the cycles. From the rewinds. From the emotional debt. From being the man who had to prove his worth just to get basic kindness. I changed jobs. Quietly. Transferred to another office in another city. Didn't tell anyone except HR. Rented a new Ford F-150 and drove across state lines without a playlist, without a plan. Just motion. Because stillness had started to look like her. She reached out through mutual friends. I asked them not to mention me again. She sent a gift through Amazon, a book I once said I liked. I left it at the front desk. Unopened. Because now, everything from her came wrapped in apology. And I didn't need that anymore. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her pain. I just didn't recognize the woman who used my silence as permission, who saw my patience as passivity, who called my presence convenient. So I made myself unavailable. Not with a storm, but with a fade so quiet, she'd feel it every time she reached for something that wasn't there. And in that quiet, I hope she finally hears it. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't wanted. That's not revenge. That's what healing sounds like. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.